friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using Lawn Fawn's Tiny Friends and Happy Village. So I've stamped my images out in some jet black ink on some Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock, and I'll be coloring with my Copic markers. I'm starting with my house, and for the siding I'm going to do a light gray using C0, C1, and C3. So I'm taking that C3 and adding some shadow up under the roof line and also on the two sides next to the bump out, and then blending that out with the C1. And then I'll save some room for that highlight shade, the C0. Just fill in all of that white space. And then I'm going to do a second layer on that just to increase that saturation and really add that depth of shadow on the card. I also decided on my second pass to add a little shadow on the left side of the door and windows. So this card is actually really personal. This is going to be for my brother and his girlfriend who recently purchased a house after a long struggle to find the right one and putting offers in and not getting them. And so they finally actually got a house, and so I wanted to create a welcome home card for them. So I'm actually coloring this to look like the house that they were able to put an offer in and that was accepted. So now moving on to the roof, and I'm going to use C5, C7, and C9 so I can do a black roof. So I use the C9 up at the top on the ridge line and also above the bump out where the entranceway is. And then I'm going to blend that out with the C7. You can see that the C9 is super dark. It's almost black. So you really need those other two shades to kind of balance that out and create a little bit of a lighter tone in there so that it's not just flat black. So I used the C5 as my highlight and really worked over the edge of that C7 to create a nice blend. Also went over the part above the doorway, and then I'm going to do the front door the same because they have a black door on the house that they're getting. And so I put my shading down at the bottom for the door, and I'm blending toward the top with those lighter two shades, and again just working over the edge of that C7 to create that soft blend. Then I'm going to take BG10 and add a little shading to the glass of the windows and also to the cloud just by following the scallops along the bottoms. I'll do that on both of the clouds. And then I'll move on to my tiny little people. So I'm using E50 and E51 for their skin. For the girl, I did her face and arms, and then I also decided to do her legs. You could give her tights if you wanted, but I just decided to do it as a skin tone. And then I did the same on the boy for his hands and his face. And then I'll use RV10 and RV11 to add some blush onto the little girl's cheeks. I decided to skip it on the boy because my brother, he's not prone to blushing, so I don't think it would be very accurate. For her hair, I'm going to use E44, E47, and E49. My brother's girlfriend has really dark hair, almost black, but I didn't want to use the same colors as I used on the roof of the house. I wanted something that would stand out, so I decided to go with these very dark browns. So I just used those for her, adding a little bit of a highlight on the parts that would be bumped out. And then I'm going to switch to E43, E44, and E47 for my brother. He also has brown hair, but not quite as dark as hers. So I wanted there to be just a little bit of a lighter tone mixed in there for him. I'm going to switch to some different browns to do the tree trunk. Again, I didn't want it to be the same color as their hair, so I used E55, E57, and E59, just adding a little shading on the right hand side. and blending out with the E57 and saving a little room for that E55 for a highlight. And for the top of the tree, I'll use YG13, YG17, and G46 to add a bit of depth. So I'm shading from the bottom to the top, just like I did with the door of the house. I used the G46 at the bottom for the darkest, blended up with the YG17, and then I'll fill in the top of the tree with the YG13. And again, just work over the edge of that YG17 to get it soft and blended. Then I wanted to hop over to the dog, and they have a black dog named Jackson, and I didn't want to do the same black as the roof again. I wanted something that would stand apart, so I chose to go with warm grays, and I picked W5, W7, and W9. I picked those really darker shades because it is a black dog, and I wanted it to look black, not look like a dark gray. But you also don't want to lose the features, especially with these darker shades. So I was really careful not to add any of the darkest colors over the eyes or the nose or mouth. Made sure to use the W5 in that area so you can still clearly see his adorable little features. Then I'm going to move over to the sun. I wanted to start adding in some bright pops of color because this is supposed to be a springtime card. That is the season where they sign the contract, and hopefully will still be the season when they get to move in. So I chose Y11, Y13, and Y15 for that. And again, I did a second layer just to increase that saturation, smooth out that blend. Then I'm going to give the girl a hot pink dress. So I chose RV13, RV14, and RV17. I'm adding some shading on the right hand side and also at the waistline, blending out with the RV14 and then the RV13. And then for his pants, I chose BG11 and BG13. They're supposed to sort of look like jeans, even though it's not quite a jeans color, just because I wanted to tie in with the pattern paper. I also used the lighter shade for her shoes, and then went back to my yellows for his sweater. I picked Y11 and Y13 for that, and did a second layer to increase that saturation. I used YR04 for his t-shirt underneath his sweater, and also for Jackson's collar. And then I'm going to go back to my W1 to do his shoes and also the front stoop. And then I'm going to trim these images out with their matching dies. And while I'm getting ready to die cut out my images, I thought I would share a quick tip with you guys for how to quickly and easily match up the dies for the Tiny Friends with the stamp set. What I did was I arranged the dies on a magnetic sheet in the same order that they appear on the stamp set, also in the same 4 rows, and then I just numbered them with a Sharpie on the back 1 through 16. So if you lay out the stamp set and the sheet of dies side by side, it's so super easy to find which one you are searching for, and replace them when you're done in the same order as well. So I just taped them in place with a little bit of post-it tape and then run that through my die cutting machine. And then for my focal panel, I've taken a piece of mermaid cardstock and die cut that with the Stitch Circle Stackables. And then I used a piece of Noble Fir and Cilantro, and I used the Stitch Hillside Borders and the Simple Stitch Hillside Borders. Then I'm going to choose some pattern papers, and the first print I'm going to pick is from this Perfectly Plaid remix, and I really liked this bright springtime plaid, so I chose that one to be my base print. And then I wanted to choose 2 more prints that would go along with that, so those are going to come from the Hello Sunshine remix. I really love mixing prints on my card, and I thought this sunny yellow handwritten font would be really pretty, and then I also really liked this blue pale plaid. I thought that went well and kind of was like a subtle accent. I also chose this hot pink polka dot, but in the end it didn't quite match. It was a little bit too red toned for what I was going for, so I didn't end up using that one. I did die cut the Hello Sunshine paper with the scalloped circle stackables, and then the other two with the large stitch rectangle stackables. So I'm going to start the assembly with my focal panel, and I'm going to glue the noble fur piece to my mermaid background that is going to be the sky. And then I'll take the cilantro piece and glue that over top, so I'll have two different hillsides, because one thing that they got in this house was a nice backyard, so I wanted to kind of delineate the front yard from the backyard on that with the two-toned grass. Then I'm going to also glue my plaid print to the front of my card base, which is a standard A2 size card that I made using Lawn Fawn ballet slippers cardstock. I'll glue the blueprint over top, and I'll adjust that until all the stitching detail on the sides matches up. Then I'm going to take my focal panel and glue that to the Hello Sunshine print. So it almost resembles like the sun. I wanted it to be a really cheerful, happy scene because they really went through a lot to try to get a home, and I'm so happy for them that they were able to get one that they really love, and I just want everything to be cheerful and happy on this card. So I'm adding some foam tape to the back of that focal panel to kind of lift it up a bit, give it a little bit of dimension on the card. I'll peel off those release papers, and I'm going to put that over on the left hand side just to kind of create a different look there. And then I can start to add in my images. So I'm going to take the house first, since that's the largest one, and I'm going to arrange it the way the photos of the house that they sent me look. So it does have this big tree in the front yard that kind of overlaps the front of the right side of the house. So I arrange the tree in the same position, and then I'll go ahead and add my sun in the top right and have that kind of hanging over the edge of that circle just a little bit, just to kind of extend that scene beyond that little circle. Then I'll take the other little cloud and add that one more towards the left, making sure that those two clouds are at different heights so they aren't too matchy. And then I'm going to have the girl and the dog and my brother standing outside in front of the house looking all happy and joyful, as they will on the day that they get to move in. So I hope that they will be very happy in this house for many years to come. So the card still needs a sentiment, so I'm taking the little speech bubble from Happy Village and I'm stamping that down on another scrap of white cardstock using the same jet black ink that I used to stamp my images. So I'm stamping that down so that the little point at the bottom is facing toward the left, and then in the center of that I'm going to stamp Home Sweet Home. I stamped that down twice to make sure that I had a nice bold impression, and then I will pop my card in my MISTI. I'm going to stamp on the inside using bubblegum ink, and I'm going to use a whole little scene here with the house and a smaller tree, another cloud, and some little birds, and the sentiment that says congrats on your new home. And that one I stamped down several times because those were brand new images that I had never used, and so they just needed to be inked up a little bit extra. So I'm going to add that speech bubble over on the right hand side, also extended just a little bit beyond the edge of the circle, and so it looks like Jackson is the one who's welcoming them to their new home. And I will go and take my BG10 and just add a little bit of shading at the bottom edge of that, just as I did on the clouds. And then, of course, I had to use a little Stardust Stickles, so I'm going to add that to the bottom of the clouds, just using the nozzle to kind of spread that around and follow those scalloped lines. And then I also wanted to add a little bit on the girl's dress and Jackson's collar. I didn't add any to my brother because he probably wouldn't appreciate it. But this card is for the both of them, so I don't feel bad adding a little bit of glitter on there. I also added it to the inside of the 2 windows just to make them look extra reflective. I'll pick that up to the camera so you can see how that sparkle catches the light and give you another peek at the inside. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope that they will too. If you did like it, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Ring that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. I post new ones every Monday and Friday. If you're interested in any of the products that I used today, you'll find them listed and linked in the description bar below. And if you'd like to keep watching, here are 2 extra videos I thought you might also enjoy. You can click on either one of them to check them out. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.